It was the biggest business event of the entire year. A place where famous leaders, rising investors, sharp reporters, and excited workers all gathered under the same bright hall lights. Yet Victoria Hale, the CEO known for her strict face and colder attitude, stood there with the same stiff expression she always used to show the world. The hall was full of noise, camera flashes, and conversations about money, power, and the future of new companies. But nothing inside that room could soften Victoria's mood. She believed she had already seen everything in business, already met every important person, and already reached a level where nothing could surprise her anymore. Her assistant, Maria, kept walking behind her with a tablet in her hands, staying quiet but alert, because working with Victoria was like walking on thin ice. One small mistake and everything could break. As Victoria walked through the event with her head slightly raised, as if she owned the entire place, a calm and quiet man stepped forward from the crowd. His name was Ethan Cole, though most people there did not recognize him yet. He wore a simple but classy suit, held a small black folder under one arm, and carried a peaceful look on his face, like he was not bothered by anything happening around him. When he stopped in front of Victoria, he offered her the most polite gesture any business person could offer. He extended his hand for a handshake, a respectful greeting, a sign of professionalism, a gesture that usually brought two business minds together. But Victoria did not move. She did not lift her hand. She did not even soften her expression. Instead, she stared at Ethan's hand for 2 slow seconds as if it carried no value at all. Then she calmly turned her face away from him and began to walk past him as if he did not exist. People around them froze, shocked by the public rejection. A few reporters lowered their cameras for a moment, confused by what they had just seen. Investors glanced at one another, whispering about Victoria's attitude, some in surprise, some in judgment, and some in fear, because when a CEO behaved like that in such a huge event, the consequences usually returned like waves that no one could stop. Ethan, however, did not react the way many expected. He did not frown or step back or show anger. Instead, he gave a small, calm smile, a strange smile that looked like he had predicted this exact moment long before it happened. His eyes did not show hurt or surprise. They showed something else, something unreadable, something that made the people standing near him wonder if they had missed an important detail about who this man truly was. A young journalist standing behind the crowd leaned closer to her coworker and whispered in a nervous voice, "Does she even know who that man is?" Maria, the assistant, heard the whisper, and her stomach tightened because the tone of that question felt like the beginning of a dangerous story. She looked at the man Victoria had just insulted, and for a brief moment, he looked back at her with the same quiet smile. It was not a smile of pride or challenge. It was almost like a warning without words. A storm was coming, but no one in that hall knew how close it already was. Victoria kept walking forward, greeting other people, pretending nothing strange had happened, but something about the atmosphere had changed. The room felt heavier. Some investors stared at her with polite smiles, but behind those smiles was a new question in their minds. What had she just done? Why had she rejected the handshake of a man who seemed too calm, too confident, too unbothered? And why did he smile like he knew the next chapter of this story before anyone else did? Victoria did not care. At least not yet. She believed she had made the right decision. To her, Ethan looked like an ordinary small investor who was trying to get attention, and she never wasted time on people she labeled unimportant. She did not know that she had just made the biggest mistake of the year. She did not know that while she enjoyed her moment of pride, the first wave of trouble was already forming far away, ready to crash into her world in ways she never imagined. As the evening moved forward, Maria noticed that the same journalist from earlier kept glancing at Ethan, typing something on her phone with speed. Rumors were starting, questions were spreading, and something about the energy of the room felt like a rope slowly tightening. When the event reached its closing hour, Victoria finally relaxed a little, unaware of the storm building behind her. She stepped into her car with a confident smile, thinking the night had ended perfectly. But she was wrong. Very wrong. Because while her car drove away, Ethan Cole was standing outside the hall, speaking quietly with two important investors who looked at him with deep respect. They did not treat him like a simple man. They treated him like someone with great influence. Someone with more power than Victoria expected. Someone who could change the balance of her company with one decision. And he already had one in mind. As Ethan walked away from the hall, his calm smile returned. It was not a smile of revenge or anger. It was the smile of someone who understood that every action has a cost, and Victoria had just set her own price without knowing it. Before the night ended, the first wave of her regret had already started. And the next day, when the truth finally reached her, she would be the one asking, no, begging, for a meeting from the very man she ignored. But for now, she had no idea. She only had pride, and pride was the first mistake that pushed her toward everything that was coming her way. The next morning began like any normal workday for Victoria Hale, or at least that was what she believed when she walked into her office with her usual fast steps and sharp eyes, ready to control everything and everyone as she always did. The city outside was bright, cars rushed on the roads, and people hurried to their jobs. But inside her company building, there was a strange silence. Maria, her assistant, followed closely behind, trying her best to match Victoria's pace. But even she felt that something in the air was different, something heavy and troubling. Victoria did not notice the worried faces of employees as she crossed the main floor. She did not see how they whispered to each other or how some of them stared at their phones with confused expressions. She went straight to her office, placed her bag on her table, and took a long breath, ready to start her day with the confidence she always carried. But just as she sat down, her financial officer, Mr. Harlow, rushed into the room without knocking, his face pale as if he had seen something shocking. "Victoria," he said in a shaky voice, "we have a serious problem." Victoria frowned, annoyed by his dramatic entrance. "Calm down, Harlow. What now?" He stepped closer, holding a folder with trembling hands. "The contract we celebrated last night. It is not final." Victoria froze for a moment, then leaned back in her chair, trying to hide her irritation. "Not final? What do you mean?" "We already signed the agreement." Harlow swallowed hard. "Yes, but the company we partnered with, Tequin, they received a bigger offer right after the event ended." Victoria's eyes narrowed. "From who?" Harlow opened the folder slowly, revealing documents filled with numbers, signatures, and a name at the bottom that made him hesitate before speaking. "They did not reveal the name at first," he said, "but we just confirmed it." He looked at her with fear in his eyes. "The investor is Ethan Cole." For the first time, Victoria felt her breath catch. A strange coldness ran down her spine. "That man?" she whispered, confused. The image of the handshake she refused the night before flashed in her mind. She had walked past him like he was nothing. She had treated him like someone unimportant. And now he was the one creating a storm in her business. Maria stood behind them, shocked but silent, recalling the whisper she heard from the journalist at the event. Victoria tried to keep her voice steady. "Ethan Cole is just a small investor. He cannot buy Tequin." Harlow shook his head. "He is not small. Not anymore." His new group announced a massive investment expansion early this morning. He bought several companies in the last 3 months, quietly. He has more financial power than we thought. Victoria's stomach tightened. She had misjudged him. Badly. She stood up and walked to the large window behind her desk, staring at the city but not really seeing anything. "What does this mean for us?" she asked without turning around. Harlow took a slow breath. "If Ethan finishes the deal with Tequin, our entry project will collapse. We will lose millions. Our board will panic." Maria stepped forward. "Ma'am, he is the same man you refused to greet yesterday." Victoria closed her eyes. She remembered the way Ethan had looked at her. Calm, quiet, almost amused. But now, that calm smile felt like something else, like the first warning she ignored. She turned sharply. "We need to talk to him. Set a meeting." Maria nodded, already typing on her tablet. After a few minutes, she returned with hesitation on her face. "His office said he is not available," she said. "Not today, not tomorrow." They did not give a date. Victoria felt her control slipping for the first time. "Call again," she ordered. "Send an email. Try everything." Maria tried, twice, then 3 times. But every message came back with the same cold answer. "Mr. Cole is unavailable." Victoria's anger mixed with fear. She felt trapped, something she had not felt in years. How could a quiet man she ignored suddenly become the biggest threat to her company? She walked around her office, her heels clicking fast on the floor. "He is doing this on purpose," she muttered. "He wants me to panic." Harlow shook his head slowly. "Maybe he does not want anything from you. Maybe he simply does not care." That sentence hit Victoria harder than anything else. Losing a deal was one thing. Being ignored by the man she insulted, that was something else entirely. It felt like the world flipping upside down. Maria received another message and looked up with worry. "Ma'am, some board members want an emergency meeting." They heard the news. Victoria clenched her fists. "Of course they did," she whispered. She knew how this would go. They would blame her. They would question her judgment. They would demand a solution she did not have. Before she left her office, she took one last look at the handshake she refused in her memory. Ethan's hand. Her cold stare. His calm smile. That moment had looked small yesterday. Now it felt like a giant wave crashing into her entire future. As she walked toward the boardroom, people moved aside with nervous faces. They sensed something big was happening. Something dangerous. Something that could shake the company from the inside. The second wave of trouble had arrived. And Victoria knew one painful truth. She was losing control faster than she could understand. But this was only the beginning. Because somewhere across the city, Ethan Cole was making his next move quietly, calmly, and with the same unreadable smile. The emergency board meeting began with a tension so thick that even the silent walls of the room seemed to feel it. Victoria Hale walked in with her chin raised, trying to look strong, but her eyes showed the pressure building inside her. The long table was already full. Board members sat stiffly in their chairs, holding documents, reports, and their own private fears about the company's future. The moment Victoria took her seat, the questions started like arrows flying from every direction. Why were we not informed earlier? One member demanded. How could Tequin even consider a different investor? Another argued. How did we lose control of the deal overnight? A third asked, almost shouting. Victoria kept her hands placed calmly on the table, even though her pulse was racing. She knew the board was scared, and fear always brought blame. We did not lose control, Victoria said in a steady voice, though she knew the opposite might be true. We can still secure the contract. We only need to speak to the investor who— You mean Ethan Cole? Interrupted Mr. Brown, the oldest board member. The room fell silent for a second, because everyone had heard the name. Everyone had already read the news. Everyone knew what Victoria had done at the event. Mr. Brown leaned forward. Is it true? he asked slowly. "That you refused to greet Mr. Cole yesterday?" The air in the room stopped moving. Every eye turned toward Victoria. She felt heat rise in her face, but she kept her expression firm. "I misjudged him," she said quickly. "I did not know he was involved in the TechWin deal." "You should have known," another board member said sharply. "We cannot afford careless behavior from our CEO." The words stabbed deeper than the volume of his voice. Victoria wanted to defend herself, wanted to say that anyone could make a mistake, but she knew the board expected results, not excuses. "Have you arranged a meeting with him?" Mr. Brown asked. Victoria hesitated. "We have tried," she replied. "His office said he is unavailable." The room exploded into loud voices, complaints, frustration, and worry. The company was in danger, and the person who could fix everything was the very man their CEO had insulted in front of cameras. Harlow, the financial officer, raised his hand. "There is something else," he said, and the room slowly grew quiet again. "Ethan Cole is not working alone. He has formed a new private investment group. They have been buying shares in tech companies for months." He placed several documents on the table. "And these companies, many of them are our competitors." Victoria felt the ground beneath her shift again. "What are you saying?" she asked. Harlow took a deep breath. "I am saying that Ethan Cole might be planning something bigger. He is not just investing. He's positioning himself to become the most powerful voice in the tech sector." Murmurs filled the room. Some board members covered their mouths in shock. Others looked at Victoria as if expecting her to suddenly produce a magic solution. But she had none. Not yet. Mr. Brown looked at her with disappointment. "We need that meeting," he said firmly. "No matter what it takes." Victoria nodded with a stiff jaw. She would find Ethan. She would fix this, even if the board doubted her. But inside her, a silent fear grew stronger. What if he did not want to see her at all? What if she had crossed a line that could not be undone? When the meeting ended, Victoria walked back to her office, feeling heavier than before. As she stepped inside, Maria hurried in after her. "Ma'am," she said, "you need to see this." She opened her tablet and played a short video clip that had been uploaded just an hour earlier. It was from the business event. The clip showed Ethan extending his hand. It showed Victoria turning away. It showed the uncomfortable reactions of people around them. And then it ended with a headline: "CEO rejects investor's handshake. Big consequences follow?" Victoria felt sick. If this video spread, her reputation would take a huge hit. Investors would lose trust. Employees would lose confidence. Competitors would celebrate. "How many views does it have?" she asked. Maria swallowed. "More than 500,000 already. And it is rising fast." Victoria closed her eyes for a long moment. Yesterday's mistake was no longer just a private embarrassment. It was now a public disaster. She opened her eyes and stood tall. "We are finding him today," she said. "Prepare the car." Maria hesitated. "But ma'am, we do not know where he is." "Then we will find out," Victoria said sharply. For the first time, her voice carried not just force, but desperation. They left the office building and drove to several places where major investors usually held meetings: hotels, private offices, conference centers. They checked schedules, asked assistants, spoke with receptionists, even contacted event organizers. Every answer was the same: "We have no information. He left early. He is not attending today. He just missed you by an hour." It felt like Ethan was everywhere and nowhere at the same time. A moving shadow. A quiet storm. And the more Victoria tried to find him, the more she realized something terrifying. Ethan was not avoiding her to punish her. He was simply living his life as if she did not exist, and that hurt her pride more than she ever expected. By late afternoon, they returned to the company with no progress. Victoria stepped into her office feeling drained, but her day was not over yet. An urgent message waited on her desk. She picked it up and read, "Ethan Cole requested a private review of TechWin's data. Meeting scheduled tonight." Victoria's heart stopped for a moment. If Ethan reviewed the data tonight, he could finalize the deal by morning. And once the deal was finalized, Victoria's company would fall into a crisis she could not escape. She stared out the window, the city glowing with lights as the sun slowly set. The third wave had arrived, and it hit her harder than the first two, because she now understood something she had refused to see until this moment. Ethan Cole was not just important. He was a force she could not control. And time was running out. The evening sky darkened as Victoria Hale stood in her office, staring at the message that had shaken every part of her confidence. Ethan Cole, the man she had treated like a nobody, was scheduled to review TechWin's data that very night. If he approved the numbers, he would finalize the deal by morning, and once that happened, her company would fall into a financial hole so deep that even the strongest recovery plan might not save it. The city lights outside blinked like warnings, and the office felt colder than usual, as if the air itself knew that something terrible was close. Maria entered the room quietly, carrying another tablet filled with updates. "Ma'am," she said softly, "the board wants hourly reports. They are worried you haven't made contact with him yet." Worried was a soft word. The board was probably panicking behind closed doors, preparing speeches about leadership, responsibility, and consequences. Victoria took a slow breath. "Where is the review happening?" Maria hesitated before answering. "At the private business center inside the Grand Crown Tower." Victoria knew that place. It was one of the most secure meeting locations in the city, known for its privacy and strict entry rules. Only top-level investors, CEOs, and government officials used it. The fact that Ethan chose that location meant he wanted complete control over the review. Number. Interruptions. No negotiations. No Victoria. But she would not accept that. She grabbed her coat, her determination returning like a burning flame. "We're going there," she said. Maria blinked, surprised. "Ma'am, they won't let us in without permission." "Then we will wait outside," Victoria replied. "He will come out eventually." They left the building and drove through the busy roads, the sound of the engine matching the speed of Victoria's heartbeat. As they approached the Grand Crown Tower, Victoria felt the weight of the moment pressing harder on her shoulders. This was not just about a handshake anymore. This was about losing years of work, losing respect, losing control of the empire she had built. The tower glowed in the night, tall and powerful, as if guarding the secrets inside. Security guards stood near the entrance, checking passes and identification. Maria stepped forward to speak with them, but after a short exchange, she returned with an anxious look. They said Mr. Cole requested no visitors. No exceptions. Victoria clenched her jaw. Even the guards looked uncomfortable refusing her, but rules were rules, and Ethan had set them. She walked toward the tall glass windows of the building and looked up through the shimmering reflections. Somewhere inside that tower, Ethan was sitting in a comfortable chair, reading through numbers that would determine her fate. She wondered what he thought as he looked at the documents. Did he remember the moment she turned away from his handshake? Did he feel satisfaction? Or worse, did he feel nothing at all? That thought bothered her the most. She stood outside for nearly an hour, waiting with cold wind brushing against her face, her eyes fixed on the entrance. Business people came and went, none of them being the person she desperately needed to see. Maria stood beside her quietly, knowing that words would not help. Finally, a black luxury car pulled up to the entrance, and two security staff members stepped forward. Victoria straightened, her heart accelerating. A moment later, Ethan Cole walked out of the building. He looked calm. He looked peaceful. He looked untouchable. His steps were unhurried, and he held a simple folder in his hand, the same folder that now carried her future inside it. Victoria took a small breath and stepped forward quickly before he could enter the car. "Mr. Cole," she said, keeping her voice steady even though her nerves were shaking, "I need a moment." Ethan looked at her with polite surprise, as if he had not expected her to wait hours outside for him. "Miss Hale," he said with the same calm tone he had used at the event, "I wasn't aware you were here." His voice was soft, but every word carried weight. "We need to talk," Victoria insisted. Ethan held her gaze, not angry, not annoyed, just analyzing her. "About what?" he asked. The question cut deeper than any insult. He was forcing her to say it to admit what she had done wrong. She tried to breathe normally, but her voice cracked slightly. "About Tequin. About the review. About our partnership." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "I wasn't aware we had a partnership." Maria lowered her head, feeling the sharpness of that line. Victoria swallowed her pride, one of the hardest things she had ever done. "I misjudged you," she said. "I should not have walked away yesterday. It was unprofessional and disrespectful." "I understand that." Ethan's expression didn't change. He listened, calm and unreadable. "You are right," he finally said. "It was unprofessional." The words stung, but Victoria forced herself to stand still. "I want to fix this," she said. "Please give me a chance to talk. Just a few minutes." Ethan looked at her for a long moment, the night air silent around them. People passing by slowed their steps, sensing the tension. A powerful CEO asking for time from a man she dismissed. It was a picture no one expected to see. Finally, Ethan spoke. "Respect," he said slowly, "is something you show before you know someone's value, not after." Those words hit harder than any deal or contract ever could. They were a lesson, a warning, a truth she had ignored for too long. Victoria opened her mouth to respond, but Ethan gently raised his hand to stop her. "I have not made my final decision about Tequin yet," he said. "But my decision will be based on numbers, not emotions." That meant he would not save her out of kindness. He would not help her because she apologized. He would only act based on what benefited his goals. And that terrified her more than rejection. Ethan stepped into his car. "Good night, Miss Hale," he said, and the door closed with a quiet finality. The car pulled away from the tower, leaving Victoria standing under the cold night sky. She watched the taillights fade into the distance, feeling the fourth wave crash inside her. She did not know what Ethan's decision would be. She did not know how much damage tomorrow would bring. All she knew was that she had lost control of everything except her determination to survive whatever came next. The next morning came with heavy clouds over the city. But inside Victoria Hale's office, the air felt even heavier. Her team sat around the long glass table, waiting for her to speak. Everyone looked tired, stressed, and worried. Victoria walked in fast, holding a folder filled with printed reports. She placed it on the table with a sharp sound that made everyone jump. She did not like showing fear, but everyone could see something was wrong. Her face was pale, and her eyes looked like she hadn't slept at all. She pointed at the screen where numbers glowed in bright red. "This happened overnight," she said. "Our new payment system blocked in 3 countries. Our server's unstable, and our client's angry." Her technical director cleared his throat. "We are working on it, ma'am, but it looks like someone predicted our weak points. Every part that got attacked is the part we never expected." This made Victoria freeze. Predicted? Yesterday, Ethan Cole had not looked surprised by anything. Her assistant, Ava, slowly spoke. "Ma'am, he warned you." in his own way. Victoria remembered the small smile he gave her. A quiet, calm smile. Not angry, not offended, but confident, like everything happening now was part of a plan he already knew about. Before she could respond, the conference room doors opened, and her legal advisor rushed in. "Victoria, we have a new problem. One of our biggest partners just paused their contract. They want to review our stability. If they withdraw, others will follow." The room went silent. A pause. Then all eyes turned to Victoria. She felt something she had not felt in years: uncertainty. Her company had survived many storms, but this one felt different. This one felt intentional. Ava slowly stepped forward and placed a tablet in front of Victoria. "Ma'am, you should see this." On the screen was a trending news article. A headline in bold letters read, "Ethan Cole, the investor who predicted the tech fail ended." There was a short video clip from last night. It showed 2 seconds of the moment Victoria ignored his handshake. Then the camera zoomed on Ethan, his calm smile, his steady eyes, his quiet confidence. Below it, thousands of comments. She disrespected the wrong man. Ethan Cole? The guy who saved 4 failing companies? She made a huge mistake turning her back on him. Victoria closed her eyes for a second. She suddenly understood why people had gasped at the event. They knew who Ethan was. She didn't, and now the entire world was watching her pay the price. Her phone buzzed. Another message. Another alert. Another temporary shutdown. Her heartbeat grew faster. She needed answers. She needed solutions. She needed someone who understood what was happening, but no one in the room had answers. No one had a plan. No one could stop the damage that kept spreading. Ava stepped closer and whispered, "Victoria, maybe you should call him." Victoria opened her eyes slowly. Her pride fought back hard, but her fear was stronger now. She whispered, "Find his number." Ava nodded and rushed out of the room. The entire team watched quietly as Victoria stood at the window, staring at the falling city lights below. Her city, her company, her empire, all shaking because of one mistake, ignoring one man. Her voice was soft but filled with tension. "This is only the first wave, isn't it?" The technical director answered carefully, "Ma'am, if we don't act fast, the second wave will be worse." Victoria's jaw tightened. Her hands shook slightly, and she hid them behind her back. She had built her life on strength, control, and confidence. But now, for the first time in years, she felt small. She whispered to herself, "Ethan Cole, who are you really?" Because now she knew something very clear. This man wasn't just another investor. He was a storm, and she had walked straight into it. The next part of the disaster was only hours away. The afternoon moved fast, but for Victoria Hale, every minute felt like a battle. She waited in her office, pacing back and forth as Ava tried to contact Ethan Cole. The phone on Victoria's desk stayed silent, which made her more anxious. She was not used to waiting for anyone. People always waited for her. But now the power had shifted, and she felt it in every breath. Ava finally stepped back into the office. Her face looked uncertain. "Ma'am, I tried calling his number. It's off." And his assistant said he isn't taking meetings today. Victoria stopped walking. "He refused?" Ava nodded softly. "Not rude, just calm. He said he is busy." Busy. The word hit her like a warning. Victoria turned toward the window again. The city looked normal, but she knew her world was not. She needed to find Ethan before things got worse. She couldn't let the situation grow out of control. But it already was. Every hour, new reports came in. Delayed payments, confused clients, system issues, and nervous partners. She called her technical team again. "What's the status?" Her director spoke from the screen, his voice tired. Ma'am, something new happened. Our internal communication channel just crashed. Someone sent a flood of automated requests. Everything froze. We can't message each other properly. Victoria felt her chest tighten. Another hit. Another perfectly timed attack. Fix it, she said quickly. We're trying. But whoever is behind this, they understand our system better than we do. Victoria froze again. Whoever is behind this. She could not stop her brain from going to the one man whose calm face had been haunting her since last night. But was Ethan really doing this? And if he was, why? Before she could think further, Ava rushed in again. Ma'am, you need to see this now. She handed Victoria a tablet. A live news stream was playing. The reporter stood outside one of Haltech's main data centers. Lights flashed behind him. Engineers rushed in and out. The reporter spoke fast. Just moments ago, Haltech suffered another unexpected shutdown. Their backup system failed. Customers are complaining worldwide. Experts say this could be the biggest collapse the company has faced. Victoria's stomach dropped. Backup system failed? That had never happened in the history of her company. She whispered, "This can't be real." Ava looked at her nervously. Ma'am, the board wants an emergency meeting tonight. Victoria's eyes widened. Tonight? Yes, they said the company is losing trust every hour. They want an explanation. And the plan. Victoria sat down slowly, her hands gripping the armrests. This wasn't just a crisis. This was a coordinated strike. Every piece of her company was being tested, attacked, or shaken. And she was running out of time. Ava spoke softly. Ma'am, maybe Ethan can help. He saved companies before. Maybe he knows something we don't. Victoria shut her eyes. Yes, that was the truth she didn't want to admit. Ethan Cole was the only clue she had. The only person who didn't look surprised last night. The only one who smiled while her downfall was silently beginning. She opened her eyes sharply. Ava, schedule a car. I'm going to find him myself. Ava hesitated. Ma'am, where will you go? Victoria stood. Her voice was firm but low. I know where investors spend their afternoons. She didn't reveal the location, but she had a strong guess. Ethan Cole was not someone who hid. He was someone who let people come to him. She grabbed her coat and walked out of her office. Every staff member turned and stared. They had never seen Victoria move so fast, so tense, so determined. As she walked out of the building, she whispered to herself, if I don't stop this now, the third wave will destroy everything. Little did she know, the third wave had already started. Victoria's car moved through the city fast, but her thoughts moved even faster. Every second mattered now. Her company was shaking, her board was angry. The systems were falling apart one by one. And Ethan Cole remained silent, calm, untouchable. The driver finally slowed down near a private business lounge, an elegant building where top investors often met. Victoria stepped out quickly, her heart beating fast. She almost never came here in person. Normally, the world came to her. But today, she was not the powerful one. When she walked inside, the receptionist looked surprised. Ms. Hale, do you have an appointment? No, Victoria said. I need to speak with Ethan Cole, now. The receptionist typed something fast, then paused. I'm sorry. Mr. Cole is not here right now. He left an hour ago. Victoria felt a sharp sting of frustration. She was always one step behind him. Did he say where he was going? The receptionist slowly shook her head. No, ma'am. But he left a message for anyone who came looking for him. Victoria's heartbeat stopped for a moment. A message? For me? The receptionist handed her a sealed envelope. Her name, Victoria Hale, was written on the front in neat handwriting. Ethan's handwriting. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a single card. Your company's system didn't break. It was already broken. Look inside your own walls. Victoria stared at the message, confused. Inside her own walls? What did that mean? Before she could process it, her phone vibrated loudly in her hand. Ava was calling. Victoria answered quickly. What happened now? Ava's voice came through fast and shaky. Ma'am, there's something you must see. We checked the logs again. The attack. It didn't come from outside. Victoria's breath caught. What? It came from inside Handshake. The lobby around Victoria suddenly felt smaller, colder. Inside Handshake. Her own people. Someone in her company was destroying it from within. Victoria spoke slowly, carefully. Who did it? Ava took a deep breath. We found the source. The one who shut down systems. The one who blocked payments. The one who crashed communication. It was someone with high-level access. Victoria leaned on a nearby counter to steady herself. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Tell me the name. Ava hesitated, then said it. Ma'am. It's Lucas, your chief technology officer. Victoria closed her eyes in shock. Lucas? Her long-trusted CTO? The same man who claimed to be fixing the issues? The same man she defended during meetings? A cold wave washed through her. Everything made sense now. The perfectly timed failures. The errors that appeared and disappeared. The systems collapsing one by one. Lucas had full control of everything. He could break the company with a single command. Ava continued. We checked deeper. He created secret access doors months ago. He planned this. And he transferred company data to an unknown location. Victoria felt her hands go cold. Lucas had been preparing this for a long time. He didn't want Handshake to survive. He wanted it to fall, but why? Before she could speak, Ava said something else, something even more shocking. Ma'am, we found something else in the logs. Lucas met with someone 3 days ago. Victoria whispered, Who? Ava answered slowly, Ethan Cole. Victoria felt her entire world tilt. Ethan and Lucas? Were they working together? Was Ethan part of this attack? Was he the one behind the waves of destruction? Or was he trying to warn her from the beginning? Her mind raced with questions, confusion, and fear. Ava spoke again, her voice tight and worried. Ma'am, Lucas just left the building. We can't find him. Victoria looked at the card in her hand again. Look inside your own walls. Ethan knew. He knew Lucas was the one. He wasn't attacking her. He was trying to push her toward the truth. Victoria whispered to herself, Ethan, where are you? I need answers. She stepped outside the business lounge, her eyes searching the city like she could somehow find him by will alone. Because now the truth was clear. The real danger wasn't outside Handshake. It was inside. And Lucas, her most trusted officer, had vanished with all the power. And somewhere out there, Ethan Cole was watching everything unfold. Waiting for the moment Victoria finally understood the full picture. But she was not ready for what came next.